Estamos aquí guarachando, descargando. ¡Ajá!
Oh, yeah. And y'all in the chat, don't be laughing at me. Y'all see me struggling with this technical stuff. I'll get it eventually. But welcome to the show. Welcome, Anton. Thank you for being here. Welcome, myself, Scam Likely. Thank you for being here. Candid Ann, love you to death. Thank you. And Sugar Bomb. Oh, yeah. Trolling is legal. Do what you do. Tarika Smith, thank you for being here. And thank you all who attended the last show. But for those of you who is your first time, my name is Scam Likely. This channel is going to be a little bit different. There will be some silly stuff, some clowning, some whatever. But a lot of it will be 60-70% will be somewhat serious, different versions of good conversations that need to be had. We asked the people to have good conversations. They said no. So I got to do it. I really don't want to, but it just needs to be done. Last week was talking about anger management, because you got all these people just normal, just chilling, and and then you say something. Hey man, your shoes are untied. And they want to fight and they want to stab somebody. No. Going into anger management, which I had some great people who had some great solutions to some things. Thing with anger management, adults on adults, is what is. But we're going to talk about the kids today. Welcome, Adriana. Thank you for being here. We're going to talk about the kids and we're going to talk about the parents. Good looking as I am, I don't have any children, but I still have been a child and I still see children. I was a teacher. In 2010, I taught 4th grade in the inner city. You see the effects and some aftermath of some things or whatever. But the major question is, soft parenting, is that the way? Or is it hard knocks? Hard knocks meaning putting fire and putting that fist, the belt, the switch, the whatever, all the way to the bricks on the kids. Or is there another way? Is it an extreme? Is there something in between, but what actually works? We're going to have a conversation. Hold on, what's that noise? Huh? Junior, come here. Boy, I done told you, come here. Oh, no, you done did it. Come here. Oh, yeah, come here. I'm going to beat the black off you. Oh, yeah. You didn't flush the toilet fast enough. I'm going to get you, I'm going to get you, I'm going to get you. Whoa. Does that look familiar? Did I just make that up? Or is it really people really doing it? And the kid's 3-4 years old. 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds. I'm 6 feet, 180. Actually, I lost some weight again. Salute. I'm 185 pounds right now. How much pain do you need to inflict to a 3 and 4-year-old? How much pain do you need to inflict to an 11, 12-year-old? Why do you need to actually try to rule by fear? Is that how you're supposed to look at your kids? Come here. Why, when I was a teacher, these are 9 and 10-year-olds looking at the other kids. I'm going to beat the black off of you. Why is it a natural thing to inflict violence because of something that you don't want? What's being taught? What's going into the subconscious mind of the person? We're talking about kids to the point where that's their natural habitat. That's what they just know. So you wonder, hey, a lot of the inner city is a whole bunch of violence. I wonder where it came from. It's a taught thing. When you get mad when something ain't acceptable, threaten, enforce fear. And if not, pow, fight, stab, shoot. I'm just saying. Is there another way? Are the kids who are winning, who are going to be the most productive adults, did you beat them into it? If beating fixes everything, everybody just beat. Well, you know what? Somebody steals your parking space. Somebody looks at you. We're going to talk about it. And for those in the chat, if y'all got questions, it's cool. And later I might let a couple people come up. But is this the way? Does it work? Is it effective? Because you'll hear some people, man, if my grandmama hadn't beat me, I would have been out. Are there other people who got beat with bricks and cinder blocks that are in jail cells? If you go to the worst of people and ask them, excuse me, did you get beat? Whoop, and they'll tell you, man, I got hit with a center block one time, a brick, somebody picked up a car and threw it at me. They'll tell you that. That's my side. Now, everybody has the right to their own opinion. They have a right to their own actions. Well, to a point. But I'm going to say there are other ways. I'm not going to go into detail with it right now, but I'm going to bring up an expert. Love C, you ready?
I'm here. Hey, Desto. Good evening, everybody.
Good afternoon. And just something about Love C. She actually is Love C. The time that I've been talking to her in the back chats and in some of these YouTube spaces, she's one of the most positive, one of the most influential people, and somebody we desperately need in these spaces for a conversation. One of the best listeners, one of the most emotionally intelligent people. And she does have kids. Somebody who's very highly respected and somebody who I actually learned from. I don't have kids, she does. Let me listen to the expert, or at least let me hear what she has to say. So what's going on? What you think about the topic, Love C? Soft parenting or hard knocks? Or somewhere in between combo? What you got?
So I think you land somewhere in between. Definitely. I've listened to a lot of gentle parenting. Like I've researched the gentle parenting movement, and I think there's some merit there. I think there's a balance right down the middle, and then there's nuances depending on the child, the personality of the child. All the children are different. Even children in the same home are going to be different. So I think you have to go right down the middle, not permissive, definitely not an authoritarian, but more authoritative style. And then always give room for nuances depending on the personality of the child.
Did you say different personality of the child?
Yeah, depending on the personality of the children. So we don't parent or discipline all of our children exactly the same.
Really?
Yeah. Well, because they're different. So they learn differently. They have different interests. They're motivated by different things, different fears. So we have to adapt in order to get the best results, or the desired result from them.
So you're telling me I can't say I'm the parent, it's my way or the highway. I got 3, 4 kids around, and I'm gonna do everything the same way because they got to get with my program. You're telling me that's not the way? 'Cause I'm the parent. I run things. You do what you're told. You do it now.
I mean,
You don't.
and you can. That's one thing. I'm not going to tell anybody how they, what they should do or how to do it. I mean, you can do it that way, but even to parent that way, if you look at them, if they're children, you can have children come from the same family and they all turn out differently, and that's the reason why, on their personality, how they internal the way that they were raised, and whether they got what they needed or not, that'll determine the outcome. Yeah, I think you have to be flexible. She said parents are down bad.
So when you say it's a different approach, so what happens if you got your 8-year-old and you got your 13-year-old, and you do something different to the 18-year-old and 13-year-old? 13-year-old's like, that ain't fair. How come you did this for me, but you didn't do it for him? How do you respond?
So I think different based on the age, you're looking at their development. What do they understand? What are they capable of doing mentally? What are they able of comprehending? 8-year-old and a 13-year-old are going to comprehend 2 different ways. But most importantly, what have you actually taught them? I find that a lot of times they're disciplined. Children are disciplined or in some cases abused because they're the lack of a parent actually parenting them and teaching them principles and rules. So you don't like a behavior, and so you are being disciplined based on that behavior, as opposed to you telling a child what it is they're supposed to do, making sure they understand what they're supposed to do, giving them a chance to learn. Even at our jobs, you're trained for a period of time. You might have somebody that you're shadowing for a period of time before you're ever left to do something on your own. Even then, if you make a mistake, you're, even if their intent is to fire you, you're still disciplined out. You're not immediately fired the first time you make a mistake. And then think we're going to dock your pay. And if we dock your pay, then that's going to motivate you to do the right thing. If you don't have an understanding or you're not capable of doing whatever is being asked of you, they can dock your pay all they want. It's not going to give you an understanding. That means you need to be retrained, or you need to be taught, or you need to be trained in a different manner, in a way where you can understand. This, how much more with children? Your job is to create, is to basically paint a blank canvas. And usually the things that we see in the children and don't like the most are the traits that they got from us. So
Got from us.
yeah.
You mean the parents got bad, but they're the leaders. They're supposed to rule with the iron fist, and the kids are supposed to just follow. So what do you mean bad traits they got from the parent? And then once they're 18, they're on their own, and it's their fault, right?
I mean, if you want to have that philosophy. I mean, your children come out with a personality like you, whether you tell them or not. It's you or the person that you had them with, so if you have, children who talk a lot, you probably talk a lot. If you have, the little ways that they have, when people who know you are honest, they'll tell you like, ooh, they're just like you. They talk just like you, they act just like you. Or, your family will be like, oh, that's you all over again. And so a lot of times, if it's the good things, you want to take it. If it's not so great, then you usually put it off on the other person. But they come, the children come out learning, from you. So like we say, more is caught than is taught. So I can tell you all day long, be kind, or you need to be respectful, or you shouldn't talk about people. But if I'm mean and I'm a gossip on the phone with my friends, and I'm, carrying myself in a way that is unseemly, they're going to see that and they're going to mimic what I do. And so a lot of times what we're training, or what we're trying to train out of our children, are behaviors that they're mirroring, or the behaviors from the environments that we put them in. Because it's possible for your children to pick up things from outside environments and surroundings too. So, there's nuance to it. But a lot of times, you get a mirror of yourself with your children, and that's what can make it, so frustrating. Or it can make it where, you favor a child. So.
Sugar Bum. Okay, I'm gonna tell you like this here. Don't use that wrench. Don't do it. It's gonna be me and you right here. No, shout out to those who just joined: Free JDC1, CJ Majesty, Adriana Nicole. Shout out to y'all, and thank you, Lady Navola. Thank you for everything that you do.
And I can't see the chat right now, so hey to everybody. I can't look at it right now because I'm on my phone, but when I switch over, I'll be able to see the chat.
Yeah, you're good. No, it's interesting
But
that you say.
When it comes to parenting, what do you feel like? How do you feel like your parent parented? Like, do you feel like would you give them a passing grade? What do you feel, what style did they have with you?
A few things. For y'all who don't know, grew up, my parents were married at 17 and 19. Dad was 19, she was 17. They were dating, I don't know, then she was pregnant. It's like, what we gonna do? The old school story. But they decided, hey, we're gonna try to make this work. They went through the growing pains, But one thing they did do is they said they involved God in their marriage. They're still married today. I was born, years later? So my dad would have been 24. My mom would have been 21. So young. They didn't go to college. They went from high school adults. And they woke up and there's 3 monsters running around. So trial by fire. Some of it was hard parenting. Some of it was soft. It was a combo. The hard parenting part, yes, we got whoopings and things. But they said later, they whooped us because that was what you do. That's what they knew. That's what you're supposed to do. They do this, whoop them. They do that, whoop them. Now, we weren't beat and, hit with all this and flipped around. No, we weren't abused. But there were conversations in between that. So there was guidance and it was model behavior. Overall, the whoopings had a negative effect. It wasn't like it was getting whooped and beat every day. But my brother has a more traditional mindset. He doesn't understand anything wrong with it. But part of what I believe whippings do is restrict critical thinking. It stops people from thinking why, how. It keeps them to just focus here, do this right so I don't get whooped. It restricts that, how's this done? Why this done? What if this? Or having certain conversations. We were allowed to ask why and how, but there was times where it's just some whooping or we saw sometimes not necessarily the anger, but the revenge factor. This ain't done right. And it was whooping kind of a revenge part. It was very rare. But we know the effects of it. It's not good. Oh, welcome to the show. Tez the 5 from the 5100 podcast. An active parent, very positive person, and a married young Black man. Good attitude. Somebody you'll probably see over here. Somebody you'll have me see over there. Also, mods, feel free to drop any of the brother sister channels in the chat. Starting with Tez the 5100 podcast. I'm trying to get Love C to start a podcast, but I mean, it's cool. But overall, we understood the structure and order. We understood the behavior that was modeled, but there were some negative effects of whooping. My sister will tell you negative. She didn't like the fact these people are whooping on me. She didn't like sometimes when they say, hey, the kid is bad. You tell somebody they're bad, they're doing something bad, and then they get whooping. It's like an instigating thing. With her personality, it didn't work. It made her worse. It made her think she's bad, she's some kind of rebel, and that's what she became. For me, it restricted me from thinking certain ways, asking certain questions or whatever, or wanting to do certain things. Like, hey, we're doing this in the garage. I dreaded it because if I do something wrong, I might make my dad mad, or I might do this and something. Or last time I remember something happened, ended up getting whooped. But the whole experience is negative. I might have done something in school. I was wrong. Did I need some punishment? Yes. Or something? Yes. I dusted. Let's be real. But I'm waiting 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. Then the garage door opens. I'm sweating bullets. Then there's the talk. Then there's the whooping. But in my mind, I felt like I was a loser. It's somewhat traumatizing. It's a whole negative experience. Positive reinforcement worked better for me. Sometimes positive reinforcement could have worked a little bit better. They didn't know. So are they fully forgiven? Absolutely. But there's other sides of it. But sometimes I believe parents should do more listening to the kids, more evaluation, understanding more of the kids, because the goal isn't just to get revenge or seek correction based on what you know, or have a trigger in your mind and say, oh, what you did? No, stop and think. How can I resolve this actual situation? This is a teaching moment. This is a correct and redirect moment. When I had this conversation, what does a natural person say? Oh, salute to Sir Hill Podcast and Mandrell. Thank y'all for coming. When I had this conversation to some people, it's like, there's other ways than just beating, whooping, firing up on the kids. Huh? What? Whoa. What would you do if, what would you do if they got in your face and they said, I ain't doing it? Come on, man. We don't live in what ifs. What if they stole your car? Well, if you don't do it, them kids, oh man, they're gonna be like them other kids. And come on, man. Go do a full evaluation of what's really going on. You're the leader. You're the best thing you can to influence. I'm not telling people what's right or wrong. This is just my observation and my opinion. The job is to get to the end goal. Every kid is different. There's positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. Do what works. Tez, what you got on the topic?
Definitely an interesting topic. I think I know we talked about this before. Me and CJ did a whole podcast about, the discipline of children. And I give you a little background from me, bro. Like, I grew up in a Christian household. I'm from the South. From Moscow, Tennessee, 45 minutes out of Memphis. And man, that's the country. So I grew up with them whoopings, borderline beating sometimes. So I know all about that. And one of the things that I wanted to do differently than my father, I wanted to explain the whoopings. I wanted to explain why it's happening. I want to make sure that that's my last resort. I'm all for the sit downs. I'm all for the punishments. I'm all for the explaining. But when we get to a point to where I done told you 2 or 3 times, now it's action. And that's just my mindset now. And I know we had a whole back and forth with a guy on the podcast. He is 100% against putting his hand on his kids. And I'm fine with that. But I do believe that every household gonna be different. Every shoe don't fit every foot. So that's just my way of doing it. Like I said, I try to give my son 2. And I talk to him like I talk to y'all. So, and he understand. And I know he understand, because when you do something wrong, he try to run, or he move. So for me, I'm a Christian brother. I believe, spare the rod, spoil the child. I believe that. But I do try to do it differently from my father. My father was act first and then go to sleep. I at least want my child to know, brother, the dangers of jumping off this couch. You could break your ankle, you could hurt yourself, you could break the table, and I gotta pay for that. I need you to stop that. And I ain't gonna tell you 2 or 3 times. 2 at the most, and I'm done with it. So that's kind of how I look at it. But I do understand that it can have some negative effects. I know people that done got whoopings and that flinch every time somebody do something quick. So I understand that. And maybe my second child, my other son, maybe I had to do him a little different. But I do believe that it does play a role in the household, depending on the household.
When you say, this question, when you say your father's way was act first, what was the effect on you growing up? How did it, I'm gonna say it, what was the effect? You say positive or negative or just whatever. How was it?
Negative, because a lot of the time, like let's say I did something at school, I knew it was wrong, but I didn't understand how wrong it was. Nobody broke it down why I shouldn't do this. I knew, okay, well, I jumped up on the school bus. I didn't understand that the ramifications of jumping could be breaking my ankle or causing the bus driver to have a wreck. It was no explanation. You did some bad whooping. It's like, wait a minute, I don't even understand what I did. I don't understand why this was such a big issue. One of the stories that I gave on their podcast was I went to a banquet one time and my friend offered me something to eat. I ate it off his plate. And next thing I know, I'm at home, I'm getting a whooping. And I'm like, whoa, what's, and I even asked him, I'm like, what did I do that was so wrong? Don't worry about it. You embarrassed me. How? So it was negative because a lot of times I didn't know, why. That's why I want to be different from my father. And I'm not saying I had a terrible father at all. I had a great father. It's just he grew up without a father, so he didn't know how to be a father. And he, like you said, Dusto, he's seen what he's seen growing up. They would just talk. That's what you do. Oh, they act bad, you whoop them. Oh, he sneezed wrong, you whoop him. He don't cut the cheese right, you whoop him. That's all they knew. So it made sense to them. So for me being a parent, it just kind of changed my mindset on it. I want to at least explain to my children its ramifications to your actions. You need to know not to do this. So that's how I did it, bro.
Yeah, I had the teaching part as well. Because I had this conversation with my dad a few months ago. And then he was telling me his story, which, I mean, we've had the conversation before, but I had it more in detail a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he was telling me how it was in his day. And which don't do what you're supposed to, get beat. Don't ever ask why or how, because that's considered disrespect. So that cheats them out to critical thinking, to even ask why you whoop kids or whatever. So what do you expect them to do? But what he told me was, when he went in the Navy or went to churches and stuff, throughout the process, they started to hear and see things that other parents were doing. And he got to ask why then. What you mean you didn't fire him up? Oh, you got to get... No, well, if you do that, this might happen. Why don't you try taking away this? Why don't you try having them doing this? Why don't you... They found some other things actually worked. But positive reinforcement is two words that are like, huh? When I bring it up to a lot of people. Like, if you coach people to win, you have to spend less time keeping them from losing. And a lot of people, I think a lot of it's in fear. If I don't do this, but you're all the way into the reactive and all these zones way back here, when the real game is being played over there. They're not being coached to win. They're not being educated, taught, guided. I mean, I don't have kids. I can only talk about from what I know and from what I see. I was military. I was also a school teacher. And they taught us don't react out of anger. All you're doing is because whatever you do is a form of teaching. People follow what you do, not what you say. So you flip out on the kids, best believe 6 months later in school, they're going to flip out on another kid. You taught them to do that. Or on their little brother. Next thing you know, they're going to be beating up the pets.
But Dusto, I wanted to hit on something that you said.
Love, see, feel free to jump in.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Tez, you good?
No, I was just gonna say you hit on a key point that me and CJ made sure to mention. You don't whoop out of anger. You can't whoop out of emotion. If he make you mad and you go straight to whooping, that's an issue, because now you ain't doing it out of the love. You not doing it out of discipline. You doing it because I'm mad. And I had to catch myself before. See, I can be vulnerable, because I believe it's on the one person that's gonna be able to tell my story as good as me. And that, well, not as good as me. It's on the one person that's gonna be able to tell my story, and that's me. Everybody else gonna be hearsay. So I had a situation like that before. When my wife was pregnant with our second son, my little boy was jumping on the bed, and we told him to stop multiple times because I didn't want him to jump on my wife and hurt her and hurt the baby. He jumped right on her stomach. And Dusto, it's like something in me just blacked out. I grabbed my son, and before I knew it, I just had to put him down because I was about to slam him. You hurt my wife, you hurt my baby, forgetting that he was my baby. And he was a child. He didn't even know what he was doing. But who's to say what would have happened if I let my emotions control me in that moment? I might be in jail right now for abuse, or I might have killed my son by accident. That was a humongous lesson in my life. You can't be ruled by your emotions when it comes to discipline, because I don't know where I would be if I let my emotions control me for that moment.
Yeah, and the truth is, a 2-year-old is a 2-year-old.
Right.
What they are. They're 2.
Right.
They're still figuring out. A 2-year-old sometimes can't even judge distance from the bed to know if they can jump off or not. But good thing is you were able to control your emotions.
Bro, it's one of them things that if you are not, I don't want to say wise enough, disciplined enough to understand when you get to that point, you got to be real careful when it comes to disciplining your children. So for me, that was one of the biggest learning lessons I ever had in my life. You can't whoop out of anger or being so upset. It was, for me, one of the biggest lessons that I learned. Unfortunately, I had to learn it through the fire. I wish I could have learned it in another way. But that woke me up. And ever since then, it's conversations. And I'm for taking away stuff from the kids. I'm all for that. All right, you tripping? I'm gonna take your tablet. All right, you tripping? I'm gonna take this. We ain't watching TV. I'm all for that. I think you can use soft parenting and hard knocks. Some people disagree with that, and that's fine. But that's my way of doing it the most effective way in my mindset.
Hey, Love C, what are a few alternate techniques, alternate things? I guess I'm just talking like in a theory, just that you don't have to always bring fire. What are some alternate ways?
So I think that a lot of times as you're parenting your children, you're learning right along with them. So I think when you understand that, and I think it takes time, but I'm understanding that my goal as a parent isn't to create a child that's convenient for me, right? So a lot of times we want them to sit a certain way, do a certain thing because it makes our lives easier. And my goal ultimately, and I have to remind myself of this constantly, is that I'm not raising children for today. I'm not raising a 7-year-old boy that's gonna always be 7. I'm raising someone that's gonna be a man. I'm raising you to be a young man. I'm raising you to be a woman. One day you'll go and you'll be someone's husband. You'll be someone's wife. And it's my job to prepare you for that, not to make it so that my life is convenient while you're in our home. And in doing that, it makes you more proactive as a parent. And I think a lot of times it's easiest to be lazy as a parent. It's easy to be reactive. And that's where it comes into where it goes from discipline to abuse. Like he was saying, when you beat, out of anger or you beat out of emotion. So I remember clearly growing up, if we went somewhere with my mother and we were bad or we did something we should not have done, my mother did not discipline us. My father did, because he wasn't emotionally connected to whatever embarrassment we had put her through. Like, he wasn't connected to it. So therefore there were rules. We had a paddle. We had a certain amount of times that we were spanked. And it was written on there like never in anger. And so they did that. If my mom was really upset by something that we had done, or my dad was just, it was too much for them, the other parent was the one who disciplined us to ensure that we weren't being beat out of anger. But I think that a lot of times we call it discipline, but the best thing is to moreover, children need things. They need routines. They need consistency, and they need it from a young age. When you start, discipline is not just, a form of punishment. It's actually teaching them the rules and habits and procedures that they abide by in your home. If you don't have discipline, if you don't have routines, if you don't have structure, then you don't have anything to give to them. So your children, I'll speak for us. Our children have a morning routine. But in order for me to give them a morning routine, I have to have a morning routine. And so I can't sleep in and then I'm asleep 9 o'clock. They got up at 5 o'clock. They're downstairs trying to make cereal. And they shooting each other with Nerf guns. And then I get up and I'm mad because everything's a mess and I'm yelling. No, I have to be proactive. I need to be up before you. I need to get the things done for myself out of the way. I need to be prepared to be with them when they wake up. So I think a lot of the alternatives to having to discipline as much, or I don't even want to say discipline because this is discipline, but without having to spank and all this kind of stuff, you don't have to do that when you're proactive and you're teaching them, hey, this is what you do when you get up in the morning. You set a routine, you set the pace, you model for them what it is that they should do. A lot of times on the back end, what you end up doing from there is training and teaching. And you're training up the child. You're not, reacting to something that they've done and then beating them. But it takes so much. It takes so much work. I can't tell you how many times I've looked back and been like, you could have done that so much better. You could have asked more questions. And I think that's a failure of parents when we say, don't question me, don't question. No, I think that with respect, they should be able to ask questions, and you should ask questions of them to get a better understanding. That's how you learn your children. That's how you find out. Sometimes we assume, and I've done that. I've assumed that a child you were doing that because whatever. And then later on, they'll come and they'll say, no, I was doing this because of whatever the reason was. And I'm thinking, if you had slowed down and given them an opportunity to express themselves, you could have avoided, because every time you do that, especially if you discipline them incorrectly, you create a breach in your relationship. So I could have avoided breaches in those relationships if I had the humility as a parent to say, even though I'm an authority, even though I am in charge, I don't know it all. And I've never parented this child before. And so I think that's something that's very important. A lot of times in parenting, you learn more of yourself. If you take the time, you learn more about yourself. So yeah, I can keep going. I'll let.
Now, I'm not a parent, so I don't get so much mic time. I'm supposed to be focused on finding me one of them special people and then making a couple of monsters or two.
Okay.
So I'll deflect over to testify.
I'll say I understand what she's saying. I feel like you do have to.
Oh, the link is in the chat. If anyone wants to come up, continue, Tess. You're good.
The routine thing, I kind of agree with, and I'll say this. I know a lot of times we hear about the dynamic between father and children and mother and children. When I grew up, I never really feared my mother's whoopings, but I did fear my father's whoopings, and it I call it healthy fear or respect. Now I say I know a lot of people don't agree with that now, and I get it, but I understand how much that did for me. If I knew Dad was coming home and I did something stupid, it made me rethink. Okay, I ain't doing this again. And like I said, it's a lot of ideas that float around now that kind of counteract that, and I'm fine with it. But I do understand that it did kind of mold me differently to know that, hey, I got respect for my mama, but my mama don't put that fear in me like father did, like pops did. Whether it was right or wrong, I understood that when it's bad, he coming. Was I afraid of my father? No. But was it a different level of respect there? Hell yeah. Because I knew it was problems if he was coming in the house and I did something wrong. So when it come to that, it's almost the same in my house. So they'll say, I don't know if it's a traumatic thing. I don't think it is, but maybe it is. But I think that's why we have to learn more. And like I said, my boy too, it ain't too many things he can say. But when it get to a point to where he can talk, I want him to come talk to me. I want to address these situations. I already talked to him like he grown. Not grown, but you know what I'm saying. But my point is, some of the alternatives, we never grew up knowing these things. So I'm still learning like everybody else still learning. But at the same time, I do feel like it has to be some type of respect there. And like I said, the routine thing might work. I don't know. I ain't never tried it. Am I willing to try it? Of course. If that's gonna make me a better father and a better parent, I'm all for it. That's just something I've never seen. So I'm not saying it don't work. I just ain't never seen it before. That's all.
Yeah.
I like Sugar Bum's. Oh, go ahead, Lovesy. Go ahead.
No, it's fine.
Sugar Bum's question: whooping your kid sounds crazy to me. Why would you want them to fear you? I like that question.
Well, that's why I wanted to kind of. I didn't mean fear. I meant respect.
I think it's a general question. I don't think it's
okay.
directed to you.
Okay.
It's just out general. My opinion, John C. Maxwell's levels of leadership. Level one, which is lowest, is leading by position, which means people got to follow you because of the position that you hold. Because I'm your father, because I'm your supervisor, because you have to. Level 2 is permission. Level 3, 4, I don't remember off the top of my head 3 and 4, but it becomes because you know what you're doing. In a form of because they like you, because they believe in you. Level 5 is because of influence. That's the top level. Means it's because of who you are, they're going to follow what you say. So what happens when you there's no belts, or your kid's 6'4", or when it's survival? You use the Book of Eli out here in these streets, and you got nothing but your voice. That's all you got. And you got 3 kids, adults, whatever, and you got to talk, and they have to move. Are they going to be standing behind, or are they going to say, "Oh yeah, we've been waiting for this. Remember what you did when I was 8?" I'm just saying. But when I refer to that, level 1 is position. Ruling by fear and blood is level 0. They're doing it because they're afraid. So it's not even, they don't even respect your position. They just don't want to bleed. How can you lead at level 0? Yeah, go ahead, Tess.
No, I was gonna say I agree with that. Like I said, I do agree that shouldn't be your basis. Fear shouldn't be your basis. I think discipline should happen, but I agree. You look at it in the military, and I'm not saying you use military tactics for your children, but you see a lot of times, and like I say, I've never been in the military, so all I'm doing is going off what I done seen. Maybe all this stuff is fake. It's a modicum of respect there. That respect didn't come just because your name James Washington, General. It's because you seen something that he did, or his accomplishments. It's something there that you look up and say, "I respect him." Did somebody tell you gotta respect them? They could tell you, but if you don't do it, my point is it gotta be something that you respect about this person. Like you said, it can't just be a title. What did you do? Did you say something that motivated this person? I had teachers that I completely hated, but I respected them because they did something. You gonna act up in my class, but you ain't leaving out this room till you get this question right. That wasn't fair, but it showed me that they actually cared, even though I couldn't stand them. So it's kind of like a lot of times when I hear the conversation around discipline, it's almost like it's a slippery slope, because I think everybody does it different, and every child is different. Lovely C said that. I'm sorry, I got your name wrong. What was it? I'm sorry. I hear about you all the time. I just ain't never seen you before.
Oh, okay. I never got a chance to meet you before. I think I've seen CJ before.
Yeah. But that's just how I look at it. The respect has to be there, and I get the fear thing. I don't want my children to be afraid of me. I don't. I do want them to respect me. So when I say something, it's okay, Daddy said this. That's just kind of how I look at it. Even mothers can do it. I'm not saying it got to be a just father thing. It just always hit different for me when it was my pops.
I think, and that to your point, that makes sense, because I think that's where the balance of the mother and the father comes in. I think in general, if you were to speak to a mother, she wouldn't want to be the one that's, having to administer the discipline that way. And ideally,
she like you, if you hear it a lot of times, you'll hear people say like, you know, they're soft, the moms are soft on the children in general, especially the boys. But I think there's something to that gains merit. Now, I grew up in a military home. I think that's why I lean toward having routines, because my father had a routine. His life was very disciplined outside of his career, and our home was very disciplined. And I don't know, I think as a child, the discipline and the structure that we had in our home made me it made me feel safe. So there's something about that consistency of a routine that brings stability. When you know who's going to be home when you get home, you know there's going to be food, you know things are going to, you know that you're going to be safe, you know that you're going to have fun. You have an expectation, even if it comes to you having to be disciplined for something. We weren't surprised when we got in trouble because the rules of our home were clearly laid out. It was clearly laid out and explained what was expected of us. But my dad had creative ways to discipline us, and a lot of times, and I think what I'm learning because I like to research the other ways that to work with your children, because I don't think you have to beat children. I don't think that everything calls for a whooping. I lean toward not with my oldest, yeah, he got it. But I lean toward like now with my children, I don't have to whoop them. I don't like it's just we're at that place, but it's because things are so structured that I'm enforcing the groundwork that was already laid. And so when that foundation is laid, you know, a certain way, I don't have to do that. And I enjoy that way more because I'm learning more about brain development. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen a parent yell at a child 5 and under. Like, why did they do this? Why did you do that? Why did you? And during that time in a child's life, this isn't anything, this is biology, like it's development. A child cannot tell you why they did something under the age of 5 because they're still developing their brain. They're in what's called, they're developing their creativity, they're developing their imagination. That's why they'll tell you like, oh, I was with my friend from school and we were at Jurassic World and we saw the dragon and I rode on his back, and then we had some chicken nuggets and he took us to McDonald's, and then I was at Granny's house, and you like, oh yeah, and the story just going and going, and they're developing their imagination and their creativity. So if you're asking them why, they really don't know why they did something. They really don't, they can't biologically tell you why. And they're not lying because there's some evil, you know, whatever. They're like, you know, they're just, I'm here. Like, I've been here 3 years. I don't know what's going on. You know, you tell me. I ate the cookies because cookies are good. Like, if I'm not supposed to have the cookie, then, you know, pay attention. Don't put them where I can get to them. What were you doing while I was sneaking the cookies? You know, at that age, you have to set a parameter for children. And I think that it's you know, it takes so much work. It takes so much work to be able to be focused. But I find it very fulfilling. And I think that it's something to be taken. It's not for the faint at heart. You know, somebody said parents are down bad, and it's a humongous requirement. You know, there's a lot that comes along with it, but I think that when you make that decision to have children, and hopefully, you know, you make that decision with lots of thought and behind it, you got to be all in. Yep. You know, you have to be all in with them.
Hey, J-Speed, jump in whenever you're ready. Otherwise, just keep
going. Good evening, everyone.
Hey there, OG.
To all the guests and then all the people in chat. I'm trying to run things in the back, so that's why my name is crazy there at the top. But I'm not losing it, and my medication is working. I went through all this with all the discussion that I heard so far. I went through all this. My mother had 18 children, and my mother was a disciplinary. My aunts was a disciplinary. My uncles was disciplinaries. My father never put his hand on none of his children. And I was thinking about this when you came up with this show. What was the first thing that I ran into that made me think differently from the way I was raised? And I remember talking to Dick Gregory one time, and he said, in the 60s, we had this nonviolent movement. And we trained the people how to stay focused regardless of somebody throw a brick at you, spit on you, throw stuff on you, all kinds of stuff, because they're going to be coming at you all different ways. And then he said, in the second, he said, why do them people went through all that and understand how nonviolence did work for us, but they went home and beat their kids? That made me start thinking. And the reason I put up, have anyone ever seen how black people train dogs? And I mean just the average family.
Good question.
They take newspaper and they try to beat the dog and make them use the bathroom and stuff like that. And I used to see this done through my whole childhood. But when I got old enough and got to reading books on how to train a dog, I seen the difference in a dog that was beaten versus one who was trained. And if you ever understand what I'm saying when I'm saying this, that I believe the first 2 kids I did spank and the last 3 kids I didn't, and I see a hell of a difference in the 3 kids versus the 2 kids. Spanking did stifle them. I know Scamlight use a different word, but it stifled the child. And when I went to Africa, and in some of the places I went in Africa, I seen the way they raise their children, how they communicate with their children, and how the whole village was, the whole tribe was. And it started making me think. And I went back and apologized to my 2 children for it. I only gave them what I knew. And once I knew better, I did better. And so I'm gonna say this. My grandmother who did most of my raising until I was 9 years old, always used the term spare the rod, something like spare the rod, stage the child or something like that. But
Spare the rod, spoil the child.
spare the child. And I did some definition on what that really means. The rod is a device like a U, and it has a point down, and then you hit against the bone of the child, and you will wave it over the child, and from the vibration of that tool, you could tell if the child was sick or what you had to do to the child. So that statement don't work for me anymore. That's been thrown out the window. And I think when you do, me has been raised up by a Christian who believe in the word and believe how people were saying things, but I see how that was taken out of text. And I think if you're using that for your foundation, you need to do a little more research on that and find out what that text, what that scripture really means. I'm not going to sit up here and tell anyone how to do what they do in their household. But the only thing I can tell you from the experience stepping out from that and seeing how dogs was trained, seeing the difference of how my children react to certain things. So I guess I'm going to end this up with the George Byrne. I think we as people, we always measure how do we turn out versus how we would have turned out. And we use how we would turn out to be worse than how we turned out. So think about what I'm finna say. People say George Byrne lived to be 99 years and he smoked cigars. And he lived a long life. But you're only measuring that with other people's life. You don't know George Byrne's journey. He probably could have lived to be 125 and healthy if he hadn't smoked cigars. Sometimes we use the wrong thing to judge what we're about to do in life. We judge how we turned out versus you could have been the next president, you could have been the next genius, you could have been a lot of other things that you have, I guess, come to be content to who you are versus who you could have been if you wasn't spanked. So I'm gonna leave it at that.
Yeah, let's get CJ in here. Thank you, OG.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you good. Floor is yours.
I've been on the other end of, angry whooping. And when I talk about single motherhood and stuff like that, I really speak from a completely different perspective than what narratives are pushed in this space. And one of the ways I speak about it is the pressure that gets put on that mama, whether she was a horrible wife or baby mama to the father or made it hard, but regardless, the situation is that she's by herself, right? And with that comes a lot of pressure and fear of losing control, because you happen to have so much control being the only one, especially if you got more than one kid. And I even got to the point where the whoopings were so brutal that I would take the whoopings for my sister. Like, I would tell her, no, just whoop me. I'll take them. And I don't want my sister to really ever have to feel it, even though she eventually ended up feeling it when I left the house. I remember coming home from school, and a couple hours we had before mama got home. They were the best 2 hours of the day. Because when she got home, didn't know what was gonna happen. Didn't know who pissed her off for the day, upset her. And those whoopings, I used to get whooped with extension cords. I got hit with lamps. I've got hit with bar stools. I've been slapped. I've been punched. I've been called out my name. I've been called weak because I cried after the whooping. All type of shit. And I'm not saying this to make nobody feel sorry for me or like that, but what I'm getting at is that when you think about where whoopings come from and how we clown each other if we don't whoop a kid that's acting a fool in the store, we will say, what's wrong with you? And I think Scam mentioned it earlier. When I got to school, bro, I was waiting on the nigga to say the wrong thing. It was like I wanted to release it, man. Because I was angry all the damn. That's why I say football saved my life. I was angry all the time as a kid. And I whooped my daughter one time. I never forget this. I whooped my daughter one time because she said a cursing word and my mama tried to check her. And she snapped back at my mama. So I went in the room. I ain't beat her down. I just gave her three pats on the butt. And I never just forget the reaction. He was like 5. And she just broke down crying. That fucked me up, bro. And I was like, you know what? I told myself years ago, if I ever have a kid, I will not do this to my kid. And that just helps me understand today how unnecessary it is, bro. Like, I'm not saying there's no reason to ever whoop a kid. I ain't saying that, because there are reasons that I think you can tap a hand or something like that because they get out of control, and they do know. Because my daughter 8, she know better. She'll do certain stuff trying to buck the system. She know exactly what it means. She know exactly what the consequences are, and she'll try to finesse her way around it. She's smart. She's in Clue for a reason. But she's a smart kid, and she'll definitely try to finesse me against her mama. And that's another adamant level to it too, because me and her mother aren't together. So she'll try to play certain things against one and against another. So to wrap my thoughts up is like, I don't think whoopings are necessary for 95% of the things that go on with kids. I don't think it. Because if you're doing your job as a parent, If you can explain what's going on as a parent, and if you're an example, because that whole notion of do as I say, not as I do is the dumbest shit ever. Like, you need to see me doing what I'm preaching you. That's why I agree with what Love C said. Setting up for the day, and then I wake up late and I'm mad at you for not having yourself together. Can't do that. You muted, Scam.
Yeah, okay. Oh, there we go. No, I appreciate y'all sharing, being open to share your stories. It's like usually on these space, I don't like talking about or openly talking about certain stuff, but sometimes a story example needs to be told. It is what it is. But my only thing with I just say this, then I'll let y'all give final thoughts. You talk about instilling discipline, putting that in the kid, and putting the fear of God in the kid, putting this in. Then you talk about beating the shit out of the kid. When you beat something out, what you don't know what that shit actually was that you beat out of him. But you did beat something out of him. I'll just leave it at that. But I'm gonna go. I'm still new at moderating and stuff. I'm used to just being a troll. I'm used to wrecking panels, tearing them apart. So I'm learning how to put them together.
It's a whole nother game when you the one controlling the mic.
Yeah. We'll start. Yeah, and my technology game is not on point.
Yeah, bro, you gotta get you another camera. We gonna get you there, Scam. We gonna get you there.
So see us at the back. Tez, I'm trying to get you the big screen. Once I figure it out. Yeah, just final thoughts though. I'm trying to figure it out.
Click on the little man next to him. Yeah, like click on his thing.
Not this one. I give this one a work.
There you go. We'll roll with that one. First of all, like I said, appreciate you, Scam Liker, for having me on the show. I do plan on being back and having deeper conversations. To the moderators, drop the 5100 channel, not my channel. I don't do nothing over there. So I'm just there. But as far as the conversation, this one thing I want to make perfectly clear. I'm a 35-year-old father and husband. It's a lot of stuff that I don't know. I could be ignorant when it comes to some stuff. I don't got no problem saying that as a man. What I will say is I've watched the thing that have worked. I haven't done all the research brothers like J Speed did, and he's an older brother than me. And I'm more than willing to research and stuff like that. I have no problem with that. But the one takeaway that I got from this is there are alternative ways to do stuff. And you could say, hey, Ted, the way you doing it is old school. Maybe, I don't know. I know for a fact that I want to be a better father. And if that means cutting out whoopings, I ain't got no problem with that at all. Because when you become a parent, you realize it ain't about you no more, it's about them kids. Me and CJ done talked about this before. That's why I respect them. We got two different opinions on these still brothers. And I want everybody out there, if you got kids, to understand you got to raise your children correctly. It ain't about you no more. So my final thoughts on this is keep learning, keep researching, keep finding better ways to do it. And if you got trauma, don't push that trauma on your kids. Don't take your anger out on your kids. And I'm a living witness to that because I almost did it. And to this day, it still hurt. Be better. That's all I got, Skane.
Cool. And drop the links in the chat. Well, moderators, anybody who up's here or anybody who is a content creator, drop your own link in the chat. It's all good. And thank y'all for coming. Still struggling with the StreamYard.
That's all right, brother. It's gonna take time. We all had to learn.
Yeah, you're doing a good job, Scam.
Just let me have it. I got it.
All right. I'm trying to move him over here.
Drag them over.
Just tell me who the
Drag it,
next
drag it.
person is. Just tell me who the next person is, and I
I'll
got
bring
it.
CJ
Drag
over
it,
here.
Yeah, drag it over. That's all you got. Click on the picture and drag it over. That's all you got.
I
Yeah.
hope they're trolling you in the chat.
Stop
They
clicking,
need to-
clicking, and let me handle this, bro. Just tell me the next person up. God damn it.
You still
CJ.
gotta learn, OG.
What is the
CJ.
trolls at in the chat?
Right.
We'll
You
do
getting a
that.
whooping,
We'll do the
Stan.
learn. Yeah, we'll do that learning shit when we doing it on the side. We just do a private. Right now, let me do my shit.
Bro, JSP got the most uncle voice in the world.
Facts, bro.
I guess Love C can go. It's cool.
Is that me? Okay. Final thoughts. I'm so glad you're doing these panels, Scam. I've been telling you for a while to just click the live button and go. So thank you for having me on. This was a good panel, and I think that what Ted said is so true. Even as myself, I'm learning constantly. I think to be a good parent, you have to be willing to learn and have humility. I have made so many mistakes, things that I wish I could go back and do over, but I can't. So I'm honest about that with my children. And I think keep learning, keep asking questions of your children, and don't be afraid to apologize. I think an apology and saying that I didn't know what I was doing, and I apologize and I'll do better, goes a long way with children. That builds a rapport with them. It builds a relationship, and that love that you build with them, the relationship that you build with them, is the thing that's gonna last, past the mistakes. So we're all out here trying to do the best that we can do, and I think that nobody has it all together. Nobody knows exactly what to do. But if you remember that they're a person, they're a human just like you, and you don't want to break their spirit. You don't want to have them fearful. The voice that you use on your children is the voice that will live inside their head. So whether you tell them they can or can't, they're going to believe it because of who you are. So let your voice be the one that gives them life, and that makes them know that they can go out and conquer the world. And if the world beats them up, they have a safe space with you. I think that that's what parenting is all about. So I enjoyed being on the panel. Looking forward to more shows. Glad to meet everyone. Thanks again, Scam, for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for all that you do. Let's go to CJ. He said he got to roll out.
Wait a minute. Who's CJ? Your name ain't
Not
up there,
left.
CJ.
Pookie Hybrid.
Okay, then let's get the names right. All right.
So look, I want to just say, especially for the people that are co-parenting, do everything in your power as often as you can. I know they're gonna be every time to swallow your pride, to be able to have a conversation with the other parent. Because if you don't, what can happen, and usually tends to happen, is that child gets confused in your message. And that confusion can cause you to be frustrated, which could cause you to overstep or go too far or act emotionally. And everything counts. I'm telling you, because everything my mama did, I remember. I don't forget none of it. So there's nothing wrong with establishing yourself as a disciplinarian, standing on business, whatever you want to call it. But you can't forget that those are children, and you were very confused when you were a child. When you were a child, you didn't understand why things were happening. When you were a child, you didn't get to a space of understanding until you went through things, progressed, all that good stuff, right? And as far as my father, when I lived with my father, he was a hothead, but he never hit me. He threatened me a couple times, but I was 15 when I lived with him, so that's a little different story. You know what I'm saying? I was a hothead myself. But all in all, my final thoughts are that don't let your kids play with you. Don't let your kids manipulate you. Be stern and have a good communication with the other parent, and have a solidified fort. So when it comes times to do what needs to do and make difficult decisions, y'all make it together. You're not alone in it. That's the point of having a mother or a father. You can tell Love C is a good mother, and that's what a woman is supposed to be. That balance in that, because some of the things she said I never even thought of before. But I take what Mama say, I take what Mother say as gold, because they are the leaders of the children. So there's nothing wrong with listening to a woman every now and again. But that's all I got.
Talking on mute. Shout out to CJ. Thank you a lot for your story. A lot of people don't open up and share personal stuff. I appreciate you, bro.
All good, bro. I'll let y'all.
Next up,
Tez, other half of 5100 podcast.
Who's already win?
I was the first one.
Yeah, he already went.
boy, you getting old. Let's get Mandrell of the.
My memory got beat out of me.
Okay, so
Toxic.
Mandrell looked like he's ready to unscrew his hat. So let's get him up there and see what's going on with him, young man.
Yeah, I just don't appreciate the disingenuous conversations that I've been hearing here today. Okay.
First thing, won't you shave before you come
guys,
on camera?
You guys are being disingenuous.
First
no,
thing,
not
won't you shave before you come on camera?
Listen.
We're not used to what you trying to do.
Listen, I gotta
Billy Goat gang.
No, yeah, I gotta prove to all the rest of you that I can grow a better Bin Laden than the rest of y'all, world class.
Go ahead.
So, yeah, there's that, and just show y'all people what I look like. My facial hair's out. I don't like it. It itches. It's annoying, but Anyway, yeah, I think that discipline is extremely important when it comes to rearing a child, and I think it's so important that you can't afford to take corporal punishment off the table, because you just may need it one day. You just never know. Kids are human beings too, and they're subject to make mistakes. Some mistakes, slap on the wrist or a good talking to. Other mistakes, punishment or whatever, take something from them. And others, they require something rather more serious. So things like shame, I'm not against shame at all, because whatever you've done and you were ashamed for it, you never forgot it. And chances are you never did that thing again. So, problem solved. Now the whoopings, there are a lot of kids who are repeat offenders with whoopings. So the argument can be made as to whether that's really relevant or not, or should we even be hitting kids or whatever. The argument can be made there. But again, child rearing is far too important to just completely take it off the table. I think that alternative means of discipline should be practiced first. All of them. Once you've exhausted all options, you got no other choice. That's the last thing you're left with, is spanking them. Go ahead. You have to get the point across to them somehow. Now, you get past 7 or 8 licks, okay, stop it. Because to me, it can turn into abuse really fast. And like I said, after 7 or 8 licks, you made your point. What are we doing now? The point's been made. So if y'all are going to spank your kids, keep that in mind. Don't take it too far at all. Be reasonable. Punishment has to fit the crime. And I don't think any kid does anything bad enough, for the most part, that requires an actual beating. No. And that's uncalled for, unreasonable, and probably child abuse. So, because I remember my mom was heavy-handed, and I got whoopings for almost anything. Couldn't make mistakes. Couldn't be told the same thing twice. Straight to the whooping. You know, but the structure and discipline that I practice to this day, some of that came out of that. So there you have it. It's too important to take off the table. Maybe push it all the way down the table, though. All the way down there. That way you run into all the other alternative methods first. But shout out to Scam Likely for finally starting his YouTube channel and for having me up on this panel. Thank you very much for that, sir. And J Speed, you know what you can do. So I've given.
You tap. You can't listen and tap dance at the same time.
Right. Anyway, shout out to OG J Speed, another fantastic fellow. Scam, good conversation, man. I mean, yeah, keep these coming, and your channel has no choice but to grow. You know, because there's a real big need for this type of conversation, not just the subject matter, but the way you're conducting them. It's an actual conversation. You know what I mean? There's a void where this is needed in this particular YouTube space. So the more you keep up on this track record, man, the faster and larger your channel is going to grow.
Appreciate it.
Not a problem.
Of course,
Shout
drop your channel in the chat. You're going live tomorrow, right?
Yeah, I am going to go live tomorrow. And shout out to CJ100 and Testify from the 5100 podcast. Shout out to those guys. Shout out to Love C. Love C, I'm sorry I missed you. But I mean, I wasn't invited on this particular panel to start off with. So you and I didn't have a chance to have a conversation or anything like that. I'd love to catch up with you one day and, you know, speak to you about whatever, you know. Anyway.
I got more shows coming, trust me.
Okay, cool. She's gonna be there.
Some of it'll be done. Yeah. Well,
I mean, I just say, you know, people hold her in high esteem. I want to see what all the fuss is all about.
All right, bro, your time is up. Get that big head off of here.
Thank you.
Mandrell Show. You going live at what time tomorrow?
2 p.m. Central Standard Time.
That's his head in 3D, people.
Shit.
My head in 3D. No, listen.
They're like the DC universe.
Let's hold on. Y'all can get mad because I'm right and you're wrong. This is what jealousy looks like, people.
This is coming from a man who was hit in the head with a frying pan from being disciplined.
Shit.
And he lost some of his neck. So, you know, we really don't believe you.
I want to know what happened to the frying pan.
Exactly.
The frying pan is on another channel complaining.
They had to buy a new one.
It's probably used to make donuts because it's got a heel in the inside of it.
Okay, I hear your jokes, you know what I'm saying? And like I said, I'm gonna grow a better bin Laden than all of y'all. So
That's not possible.
don't be jealous. Still, don't be jealous. I mean, that's all I'm saying. Don't hate. It doesn't look good on anybody.
Hey, get this big head off of here. I'm hungry. I got to cook some food and eat.
I already cooked my food, and I was in the middle of eating when I jumped up here. I was wondering if you're gonna, but I saw people start popping up and say, "Oh, he must have dropped the link." So I figured I'd come up here, give my 2 cents, and give you guys all a shout out. You know,
Support the headquarters.
Support the platform.
Come
Okay.
on time next time.
That's right.
I was here on time. I was watching your show. You started at 6:05. Yeah, I know it. I know it off the top of my head. Yes, I was here.
It do give the time on YouTube.
That's crazy because you was on my show, but that's fine.
No, not at that time.
Bang, bang, bang.
You do know I have 2 YouTube accounts, right? So,
Checkmate.
no, it wasn't.
All right, go ahead.
World class. I told you. I ain't gonna get into that, Dusty. We're not gonna do it.
That was
Checkmate. Uh-huh.
And
Yeah,
he's not coming over here. No. Absolutely not.
Listen, I give everybody one free pass, and then but that's you're right. We ain't gonna talk about it.
No, checkmate.
You see, it's just your racism. I love the topic of parenting. My solution is raise the babies based off how the brain works. If that's the case, then like what I experienced, what CJ was talking about, he experienced. That's not something that's gonna come up because I've said this before. I remember you saying OG Speed. I think it was you about not hitting a boy in the head. He said if you hit a boy in the head too much back in the day, they used to have an old saying that's gonna make them basically mentally ill and stuff like that. So I don't know why we lost that. I love some of the points that you guys brought up earlier about where we got all that stuff from, and to Love C's point about your voice. I told a young lady that is kind of in this space. She's a mom, and I was explaining to her, I'm like, when you're yelling and you're loud, you're doing all the listening for the baby. The baby really don't have to listen because you're doing all the work. And what's crazy is when you start to lower your tone and speak quieter and closer, a more intimate relationship, the baby remembers more, and you build a much better relationship. So I've taken the position that a lot of parents are taking is that I'm not beating my son. Like, I didn't do nothing for me but make me a violent person. And I went to school and beat up other people's children. So those are some of the things I picked up. Speaking silent, quiet, to your child, and like inside your arm reach, eye contact, true intimacy, not like, obviously not sexual or whatever, but for them to understand how you are, why you feel the way you feel, why things are the way they are, and have a conversation with the child. It works way better than them beatings, man. I came up from that generation where everybody getting their hind paws whipped, and we were the worst, most violent children. All the boys that were getting beat. So studying neuroscience, seeing how the brain works, seeing how the brain development process from the womb to birth, from the womb to like 7 years old, the baby's brain is so sensitive, it's growing at the fastest rate. And I think we need to implement known techniques and known information about how the brain is working to be able to teach babies to be, like I heard earlier, train babies to be disciplined. Discipline is a training, you know what I mean? So parenting is something that I think is the core solution to all the problems that we complain about in relationships and marriage. But I think we really need to just accept that a few of these generations not going to make it, and invest into the next generation, and the next generation, especially the next generation of parents. So I don't think the beatings that we have been given out is working or is worth it. So again, like I said, the tone that you take with children. So when I raise my voice now, my son, he listens, because I've never beaten my son. He never really had to be punished, honestly, because I built a relationship early. I respect the fact that he has a brain, and I treat him accordingly. So I watch that matter the most. So I appreciate you letting me have me up. J Speed, appreciate you. Scam Likely, dope show. Love the vibe over here.
Hey, appreciate you. Drop your channel in the chat. You're welcome over here. But more important than put out here to the public, some of these things I'm talking about, steal my content. Steal it. Go do your own show on my content. I don't mind at all, because some of the conversations need to be had. That's how I feel. Especially y'all who know me. Steal the content. Recycle it. Go make money off. I don't care. Had a conversation if you like it, or if you think it needs to be had. Ain't nothing personal over here. Some of this I'm not doing for money and I don't care. J Speed, anything else you'd like to share with us on the topic?
Only thing I'm gonna say is parenting don't come with a blueprint. And if you see someone else having a positive inspiration in their children's life, then include that into your parenting skills, because it don't come with a blueprint. Lord knows I made a lot of mistakes, And looking back at it, only thing I could say to my children, if I only had a half a glass of water, I say water, that's the only thing I can share with you. But technology, you can be in any library all over the world now. You can get so much information now, so you don't have to keep yourself in this world that you have to do and duplicate what your parents did. Because your parents really, believe it or not, your parents want you to be better than them. And so whatever you learned from them, you can always take it and tweak it to fit your society in the day that you are living. And so that's pretty much all I have to say about this, because me pointing the fingers at people and hollering at people and hitting them across the head with a book, trying to make them understand this. The only thing you can do is be like home style buffet. You can leave it on the table and hope somebody pick it up. And what you don't use, just leave it on the table. Somebody else can use it. Peace, love, and always strive for the truth.
Thank you, J Speed. Thank you for all that you do, especially when you see me over here struggling, clicking stuff and you half muted. Yeah, this topic, I just want the conversation to be had. If it's not me, if it's over here, over there, had a conversation. My true belief, a lot of violence you see was taught, and it keeps being taught and taught and taught. And the response to trauma is more trauma. The response to drama is more drama. Hate being taught. But aside from that, there's a lot of stuff being beat out of people, like critical thinking, like the question of why and how. Why do we do the things we do? How can we do something different and better? That's my personal opinion. And to be honest, I understand corporal punishment, but it should be a last resort. And when I had this conversation in real life, people want to push back with the what if this happened? What if they? Honestly, if you have influence, you shouldn't have to use your hands. You can use your mouth, use the voice, or sometimes just a look. Or people will come to you and say, you know what, I don't even want to do some of these bad things anyway, because I'm going to let this person down. That's true leadership. We're lacking leadership. We're failing. And that's not just parents, that's just people in general. People are actually looking for answers. They want to know how, why. They know something's wrong, but don't know what it is. And if we don't push the right message or talk to the people the right way at the right time, someone else will. And they're going to be from the Nation of Wigwam. They're going to be from the Dust and Crust mob or a gang or something else. And they're going to fail. Enough of that talk. Last thing before I close out, I'll be doing a show on, I think, Tuesday. We'll try to make Tuesday, fishing for time, but maybe Tuesday like 7:30 or something. The next show is going to be Bible thumpers and church bashers. Might be a little bit more argument over there this time. People who just, oh, Jesus, oh, verse 2:16-4. Those against the people who's like, man, Jesus is a liar. He didn't even. Had a conversation. I'm in the middle. I'm a Christian. I'm somewhere in the middle. How can we have those conversations or not have those conversations? Another show / series I'll be doing will be professionalism. Some of it will be men and women. How do you protect yourself in the workplace? How do you talk to people? What conversations do you have and don't have? How do you network? Might do a whole show on interviewing. What do you do during an interview? What questions are you going to? How do you prepare yourself? Do's and don'ts. But it might be at least 3 shows on professionalism. And it'll be interactive. And it might have a little bit of dust. But what do you do in the workplace? How do you get yourself? Are you talking yourself out the door or in the door? What people to avoid? What situations not to? How to protect yourself, more important. But that's pretty much all I got for now. Y'all know where to find me. Dustosphere on IG. Or you can find me somewhere, one of my altered egos, trolling somebody's panel. Or having a real discussion. Not hard to find. And if anybody, I'm not above approach. I say something, you're not with it, or feel like it's a personal attack, I'm always welcome to have a conversation. I could be wrong. I'm 43 and I'm still learning. Never stop learning, people. And that's all I got. Dust.